Hello and welcome to Daily Bread, Thoughts for Your Devotions. Today is Thursday, May the 28th, and I am your host, Pastor Phil. Whenever you're joining us, whenever you're tuning in, welcome, and I hope that these devotions are helpful for you. Today, we're picking up towards the end of our narrative. This is where things start to get good. Yesterday, we talked about the sports montage or the preparation montage, the improvement montage, right? When we focus in on a main character training really hard, getting ready for the date with destiny, they get knocked down a peg and they realize, oh, maybe they're not all that. Maybe they do need to put in some hard work, and they do that, and now they're ready to fight the big boss. Now I'm thinking about movies in the 80s, right? Maybe some more serious films will have just a few clips of preparation or time of solitude even. For a lot of main characters, preparation is a time of solitude, a time of soul searching, a time of finding that inner strength, of hearing those words that were spoken before about who am I, what is this identification? People think that I'm this, am I really this? Before finally engaging with that date with destiny. Well, today we're not going to get to the date with destiny yet, and I know we've been going through this. This is almost the end of the third week of tracing this narrative arc, but what we're going to talk about today is sort of once the main character comes out of this preparation time, they usually reunite with their followers, with their disciples, with their friends, and they impart to them some final words, right? If I don't come back, tell my wife I loved her, right? That sort of thing. Final teachings, final words of wisdom before they go and do the thing that only they can do. Jesus is no different. Jesus comes out of the transfiguration and the march into Jerusalem. He's got his 12 closest disciples with him. And towards the end of the week, he is celebrating Passover with them, and they go to an upper room. And I think that John does the best of kind of recounting that evening, because so many of the chapters in the Gospel of John it takes place. I mean, he starts in John chapter 13, and the rest of this goes over the course of just 4 days, right? 3 or 4 days. What happens to Jesus? How is he going to tell his disciples goodbye in some ways? Jesus knows that this is what's happening, but his disciples don't know at this point. It's just more teaching. They're celebrating Passover. And something is different here because Jesus is going to do something different. You see, they might have called him teacher or rabbi. They had just admitted that he was the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And now he takes a towel and wraps it around his waist and he washes their feet. From John chapter 13. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. So this is how we know. Oh, John is looking back and saying, okay, he knew it then, we didn't know it. But you guys pay attention, because what I'm about to tell you is important. We didn't get it, but we remember now as we remember Jesus. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. Jesus does this act of service, showing him what kind of a Messiah, what kind of a hero he wants to be remembered as. This is the last sort of scandalous thing that Jesus does to his disciples. He washes their feet like a slave. But more than that, I mean, there's also a whole lot of teaching that goes on in these final moments that the disciples have in peace with Jesus. But another thing that he does is he institutes the Lord's Supper, right? Famously, take and eat. This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Take and drink. This is my blood. Do this in remembrance of me. the blood of the new covenant. He's saying, see, there's something new that I'm doing here. And I want you to remember me through this meal. So Jesus is giving these last sort of things. His disciples don't know that it's his last sort of time of teaching them, but Jesus knows. Now we get to the thing that goes hand in hand with the final teachings. Is usually in most good narratives there is some sort of betrayal that takes place. Famously in The Matrix, we've been talking about that one a lot, but I think the betrayal in The Matrix is one of the beautiful things that makes it stand out as a Christ film, because one of the close disciples on board their spaceship-looking thing wants to be plugged back into the Matrix. He doesn't want to remember anything. He doesn't want to be part of this band anymore. He wants to get out. He wants to give up the codes to Zion, right? I mean, you guys really have to go back and watch The Matrix if you haven't in a while, because all of the names and lingo and jargon and stuff is so biblical, and it's intended to be. And he wants to sell people out, his whole team that he's been with for a long time, because he's selfish. Same thing happens to Jesus. Now, this had happened before they're having their last meal together, but in Matthew 26, starting with verse 14, we find out, then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and asked, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you?" So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. And then the next paragraph, it launches right into the Last Supper. Okay, so we know, and Jesus knows because he's God and he's all omniscient, right? That this betrayal has happened, but in most narratives, the main character and certainly the disciples don't know what's going on. It's a secret still. And when the betrayal actually happens, it's this total surprise. It looks like a total setback. It takes everybody a minute to regroup, to realize what had happened. And then they realize also that this moment that they had just shared was a special moment because it was their last moment of peace before this final battle that they're about to engage in, that the main character is about to engage in. They realize that this date with destiny is being sped up and put right in their lap for them to deal with, for the main character to deal with. And sometimes it takes the main character by surprise, but most main characters realize this has to happen. This had to have happened in order for the story to reach its climax. So I'd invite you to read Matthew chapter 26, John chapter 13. That's going to be what's in my devotion today as I prepare for tomorrow's live stream at 8 p.m. on our Facebook page. And next week we will finish up. We will talk about the final battle, the sort of climax moment, the falling action, that sort of thing. And hopefully by then I have a new born son. The due date is June 4th. And so we're hoping to have our baby soon. At that point, I will let you guys know what our plans are for the future. But for now, I plan to be with you tomorrow night and then again Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. So I hope that you can tune in, and whenever you tune in, just know that I appreciate it, and I appreciate you, and I pray for you. See you next time.